Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you. This is I welcome each and every one of you to the City of Chelsea Veterans Day ceremony. And I thank each and every one of you for joining us to commemorate our veterans. Of course, with so many looming issues, attendance is low, but I assure you spirit is high. Each and every person who made the effort to come out here, our veterans that are watching at home, are very appreciative of each and every one of you coming here to show your support. And with that, I thank you all. So we're going to pledge allegiance, right? Okay. And I would like to introduce our city councilman, Leo Robinson, and our Vietnam veteran. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce to you Valerie Creighton, who is a senior at Chelsea High. Valerie is a leader at the Team Action Project and a student representative. Please give up to Valerie, who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And Valerie, please.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Our national anthem will be performed by the Chelsea High School Conchair. I don't know if the Conchair is here. Can I have your name? This is Martha Del Reyes, who will be leading us in the national anthem. Yeah.
Can you please stand?
Go ahead, sweetheart. Take it down.
Oh, say, can you see by the dazzling light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets wiggling, doubles buzzing in them, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello again. Please give a moment to our fellow student, Cecilia Mendez. She's a senior at Chelsea High School. She's a proud Guatemalan American. Cecilia is the secretary of the National Honor Society, as well as a student representative. Cecilia will be reading the governor's proclamation. Please come forward, Sil.
Whereas since the Commonwealth colonial days, thousands of men and women have served our country in defense of freedom and liberty. And whereas on November 11th, 1918, the armistice was signed in the Forest of Campaign by the Allied nations and Germany, ending World War I, the end of all wars. After 4 years of conflict, and whereas since the day, every November, people from around the nations have gathered to honor our veterans, and whereas the approximately 388,000 veterans living in Massachusetts, and whereas today we reminded of great sacrifices and contributions our veterans have made in our country, and whereas we honor and salute those who serve our country throughout the generations with honor, patriotism, and courage. And whereas it is approximately all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who serve the country, so that their dedication and sacrifice serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. And whereas in November 2021, the world will commemorate the 103rd anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting of World War I at 11 a.m., November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day and the 11th month. Now, therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 11, 2021 to be Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you. This is what our educational system is producing, is students like this. You make us proud. At this time, for convocation, Mr. Francisco Toro, Veteran Service Officer. Please come forward.
All right. Let's take a moment, bow our heads, and ask God, Heavenly Father, to keep watch over all our servicemen and women across the world, known and unknown, those who defend our nation without any recognition. Many do not even know their names, but they defend us and keep us safe. Amen.
Thank you, Francisco. At this time, we have a resolution from Councilor Naomi Sabat from District 3.
Good morning. Whereas Veterans Day, formerly known as Armistice Day, was originally set as a U.S. legal holiday to honor the end of World War I, which officially took place on November 11, 1918. In legislation that was passed in 1938, November 11th was dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be hereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day. As such, this new legal holiday honored World War I veterans. Whereas in 1954, after having been through both World War II and the Korean War, the 83rd U.S. Congress, at the urging of the veterans service organizations, amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting the word veterans. With the approval of this legislation on June 1st, 1954, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. And whereas on September 20th, 1975, President Gerald R. Ford signed a law which returned the annual observance of Veterans Day to its original date of November 11th, beginning in 1978. Since then, the Veterans Day holiday has been observed on November 11th, and whereas countries including Great Britain, France, Australia, and Canada also commemorate the veterans of World War I and World War II on or near November 11th. Veterans Day is observed with 2 minutes of silence at 11 a.m. Whereas the City of Chelsea is holding a virtual and live Veterans Day ceremony on November 11th at 10 a.m., and it will be broadcasted on City of Chelsea's Facebook page. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Chelsea City Council honor and commemorate the approximately 588,000 veterans that live in Massachusetts and salute those who served our country with honor, patriotism, and courage.
Thank you, Counselor. At this time, it also asks that one of the guest speakers, Congresswoman Ayala Presley, come forward, please.
Sorry. Good morning. Good morning. What a blessing to be here in community with all of you. What a blessing indeed to be here at all. This day reminds us that freedom isn't free, and every freedom that we enjoy is because of the sacrifice and the contributions of our veterans. I want to express special gratitude and thank you to Director Toro for the invitation, and Counselor Robinson, and a veteran himself. And you know, it's very special that these two would extend this invitation in particular, in that often the contributions of women veterans, of Black veterans, of Hispanic and Latino veterans have been erased from history. Just yesterday, I had the opportunity to be in the company of one of our surviving Tuskegee Airmen, and just such a blessing to glean his wisdom and to be in his company. And later today, I will join with families at a historic monument in the South End in Boston, the only monument dedicated to the contributions of Boricuaneers in the country. And so this day is so very important that we make sure that the contributions of our veterans of every walk of life, that they are celebrated and honored, and that we collectively recognize their sacrifice, their courage, and the commitment that they have demonstrated to our country. And although I did receive many invitations to be in community on this special day, Chelsea is the first commitment that I made because this is a very special place, a place that has weathered unprecedented storms given the disparate impact of the pandemic on this community. And in the midst of unprecedented hardship, this community has weathered these storms with the unprecedented leadership of my colleagues on the municipal and state level, and because of many community leaders who have demonstrated unprecedented collective care and mutual aid, unprecedented caring, unprecedented love, unprecedented resilience and community, just like our veterans. And so that's why I'm so pleased to start off my day here with all of you. As I mentioned, later today I'll be joining Puerto Rican veterans in the South End, where we will dedicate a brick to Johanny Rosario, a veteran from Lawrence who made the ultimate sacrifice as American troops were evacuated from Afghanistan. I had the privilege of spending time with her family to learn more about Johanny, and the legacy that she leaves behind began far before she enlisted in the armed services. But Johanny is no anomaly. Our veterans answer the call to serve because they were already leaders in their families and in their communities. Johanny's family said over and over again that she was the backbone of the family. So she had a deeper sense of duty and obligation and responsibility, and she answered that call and met that long before she was an active service member, and that is true for all of our veterans. And that's why it's important that we honor their service and their sacrifice during and after active duty. And I often say that policy is my love language. And the reason why that is because many of the inequities and disparities and injustices that we find ourselves confronted with and living with, the most persistent challenges, are the consequence of inaction, of policy violence, of budgets that don't always codify the value of every life and every member of our community. And so, in that policy is my love language. This is why I continue to fight to ensure that all men and women who serve are able to access the benefits that they have earned, from quality health care through the VA to full participation in the GI Bill, for veterans looking to continue to build on their skills through higher learning. We honor their memory and their sacrifice by centering them in their families, and I really want to underscore that. Because I have had the opportunity to travel the country and spend time at military bases and with our military families, they serve right alongside these active servicemen and women. And so it's important that we not only center our veterans, but their families, and that we do that in all of our policy. In addition to the bill that I just mentioned and ensuring that people are accessing their full benefits when it comes to health care or pursuing higher education, I'm also proud to co-sponsor bills like the Homeless Veterans Families Act, which makes critical policy changes at the VA to combat veterans' homelessness, an epidemic, a public health crisis that should not even exist. But to combat veterans' homelessness and to ensure every individual who served and their families, again, receives the benefits that they have earned. So much of what we fight for on behalf of our veterans and their families are those things that we should not have to fight for, because these are all things that they're owed and that they have earned. But I will continue that fight and ensure that they are not left behind, because the sacrifices that they have made it possible for us to enjoy these many freedoms. Supporting our veterans means supporting those who are actively serving as well, and that is why I'm proud to co-sponsor the Military Housing Oversight and Service Member Protection Act, which increases protections for our service members that are living in private military housing. You know, in Washington, I'm fighting this fight right now, and then I serve on the Financial Services Committee for investments in our housing, including our public housing stock, much of which has not seen upgrades or investments since the 1930s. I have seniors in our district that are living in housing with rodent infestations and backup sewage and mold, and it's just completely unconscionable and unacceptable, and we can do something about it. But when I was visiting with our active service military families, a lot of the private military housing was in the same disarray as our public housing stock, and that is unacceptable. So again, Veterans Day, although the official remembrance is today, Veterans Day should be every day. And the way that we ensure that that is so is that we make policy our love language, and we recognize support is a verb. And we demonstrate that support every day when it comes to access to health care, to education, to housing, to behavioral and mental health services. And so, again, I'm so glad that my day began here in Chelsea with this extraordinary community, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with all of you on this special day. And I pledge to you that I will always center our veterans in my policies and in my advocacy, because every day is Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Our next speaker, I'd like to say a couple words in regards to him and actually officially welcome him here to Chelsea. And that is Superintendent Eric L. Johnson. With almost 25 years of active service, Eric Johnson is a distinguished veteran of the U.S. Army. He served in several different locations. He also served as a recruiter, a career counselor, and investigator for the U.S. Army. Eric brings a combination of military service, hands-on management with boots on the ground, leadership style. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management, a Master's degree and Business Administration, both earned at the University of Phoenix in Braintree, Mass. Eric was appointed as the superintendent of Chelsea Soldiers Home in December 2020 and assumed the position during the height of the corona pandemic. His leadership has helped guide the facility through major challenges and is now helping to guide the facility to finishing the new community living center and the revitalization of the entire campus. And this is really big news for any veteran who is here living in this community. And the facilities are going to be so upgraded that a lot of people will wish they were living there. So at this time, I'd like to have Eric Johnson come to the podium.
Yeah, okay. So let's try this again. Good morning, everyone. See, you're awake. My name is Eric Johnson. I am the superintendent of Chelsea Soldiers Home, and it's an honor to be here with you today to celebrate Veterans Day here in the beautiful city of Chelsea, Massachusetts. I would like to thank Mr. Robinson, thank you, Mr. Toro, Congresswoman Presley, thank you. To all distinguished guests, but more importantly, I want to thank the veterans. If you're a veteran, please stand and be recognized, please. Congresswoman Presley, I agree with you. Veterans Day should be every day. When we all took the oath of enlistment, no one said we would only do it for one day a year. Somehow we ended up doing it every day of every year, and it continues on today. You know, Chelsea is a special city. Time and again, I've been here 10 months now working in Chelsea. And over and over, you guys set the example for the rest of the Commonwealth to follow. You're stepping up for our veterans and going the extra mile. This included the city's active engagement and partnership with the Chelsea Soldiers Home, providing services and enrichment for our residents. For example, a week ago today, Chelsea High School band came to Chelsea Soldiers Home, and they spent the morning playing outside. With the pandemic and everything going on, I understand we have to be safe. They came up, they stayed outside. It was a little chilly, but they stayed for a couple hours and played. Our veterans loved it. Everyone was outside listening to them. And to be honest with you, so was my staff. So no work was getting done. Everybody was outside enjoying the music, and they did a really good job, by the way. This also includes the work you're doing to sponsor food pantries and provide other support services so vital to the veterans who have sacrificed so much but asked for so little in return. As a U.S. Army veteran myself, I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate everything you've done. I'm pleased to bring greetings from Secretary of Veteran Service Cheryl Poppy, who served so admirably as the superintendent of Chelsea Soldiers Home for several years prior to my arrival. The good part about that is she did a really good job, and all I had to do was pick up the ball and keep running. So she says hello, and, you know, just so you know, I make sure I say that. So Cheryl left the Soldiers Home and went to become the Director of Veteran Services. Today, she's got members of the Department of Veteran Services participating in Veterans Day observances in cities and towns across the Commonwealth. So if you see her, let her know I'm doing the job she told me to do. Okay? Today is a day to also remember and recognize and reflect on tremendous sacrifice and services of our nation's veterans. It's a day to celebrate and recommit the honoring of veterans, to renew our obligation as President Abraham Lincoln once charged us, to care for those who shall have borne the battle. We also want to recognize their families, their caregivers, and the survivors. We remember today those who fought for freedom and guaranteed our liberty and way of life. We also remember and celebrate the sacrifices of those in uniform who have enabled our nation to grow and flourish since as far back as the adoption of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. From Bunker Hill to Baghdad to Kabul and every war in between, the vigilance, determination, and dedication of our veterans have made us safer and stronger. What is remarkable is that our veterans are ordinary Americans. They come from, they're your friends, they're your neighbors, they're your family members. We all come from different walks of life, yet we come together with a common purpose and dignity and unity. They accomplish extraordinary things. They demonstrate extraordinary bravery and courage to keep our country safe and free. Today, the department's veterans observance, it's the first time they've had an in-person ceremony in a couple years, and they honored Lieutenant Colonel retired Enoch Woody Woodhouse Jr. I think you mentioned him earlier. Woody is one of the last surviving members of the famed Tuskegee Airmen, America's first all-black combat flying unit which flew during World War II. Lieutenant Colonel Woodhouse and his fellow airmen played a pivotal role in the early integration of the U.S. Armed Forces. Black soldiers trained as aviators under segregated conditions in Tuskegee, Alabama during World War II. They proved themselves to be among the most accomplished pilots in the U.S. Army Air Force. That was before there was an Air Force. So I'm always going to take a little stab at some of the other branches because I'm an Army guy. They flew in Sicily, Normandy, the Rhineland, and elsewhere in Europe. The Tuskegee Airmen Distinguished Record played a huge role in the President Harry Truman's decision in 1948 to end discrimination in the military. Department of Veterans Service presented him with the Community Engagement Award to thank him for his military service and his commitment to the communities. As we think about Lieutenant Colonel Woody's contributions and the contributions of so many veterans here in Chelsea, across the Commonwealth and across the nation, we pause today to give our heartfelt thanks to those veterans and salute to all of you who have done and are doing the same in the name of service. Those veterans have put their lives on the line for us when they stepped forward and answered the country's call. They put our needs before their own. And now we must put them first in our hospitals, our outpatient clinics, our vet centers, our telehealth sites, benefit offices, national cemeteries. We got to make sure they receive the compassion and the respect they so deserve and have earned. It's the duty of all Americans to remember the sacrifices of our veterans and to make certain that our commitments to them and their families are always honored. There's no more noble mission, no more sacred obligation than that. Our nation's veterans deserve nothing less. Thank you for coming to the ceremony today. Thank you for being veteran advocates. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. May God bless our veterans, our soldiers currently in uniform, and may God continue to bless our great nation. Thank you.
I'm getting ready to do that right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. At this time, I'd like to introduce some of my colleagues and dignitaries who are here. President of the Council, Roy Abercrombie, Todd Taylor, Naomi Sabat, Rosemary Carlisle, Roberto Jimenez, Congresswoman Iola Presley. I see Giovanni Recupero, and Dan Ryan. Quick note, Giovanni Recupero, and Enio Lopez, who works with the veterans every day at the Soldiers Home. And Calvin Brown. At this time, I have a few remarks of my own. Good morning. We're here today in honor of Veterans Day. Although Veterans Day, with some other holidays, has been unfortunately commercialized, We are here today in honor of Veterans Day. Although Veterans Day, as with some other holidays, has been unfortunately commercialized, I urge you to take a moment, even if it's quietly by yourselves, to contemplate the debt we owe to the veterans of all wars, and to be grateful to them for allowing us to live freely in the greatest nation on earth. This year, the city of Chelsea lost two of our oldest veterans, George Osler and Charles Lanzillo. They both fought in World War II. With that in mind, right outside City Hall, we have a dedicated stone. That stone holds the name of 12 brothers who dedicated their lives in the Vietnam War. Their names are Sheldon Cohen, Michael Fitzpatrick, Joseph Farrell, Frank Sobolewski, Everett A. Allen, Edward J. Rosser, John E. Madigan, Jr., Salvatore J. Aggie, John B. Hudson, Sherelle Mitchell, Jr., Bruce Kennedy, and William Thompson, Jr. Those 12 brothers were Chelsea. They were my friends, and as we all answered our call to this nation, they unfortunately sacrificed their lives for us to be here. Veterans Day should remind us that freedom isn't free, and that maintaining our freedom since our nation's founding has required the personal sacrifice of millions of our fellow Americans who have placed their lives on the line to preserve our ideas and our way of life. When you go home today, please try to exercise these rights that millions of veterans have fought for. I'd like to thank you for coming and having a wonderful day here in the city of Chelsea, and thank all veterans and all those who are in attendance. That kind of concludes our ceremony. There are still coffee and pastries outside, and I'd like to end my Veteran Service Francisco. No, I didn't. Yeah, before you leave, sorry about that. The city manager actually couldn't be here today, and the representative, Janino, could also be here. I know that the senator was on his way. He might not get here in time, but once again, thank everybody for being here. Thank the Veteran Service people and all those who took the time to come here today to pay their respects. Thank you.